Welcome to the Gen Z Show for another exciting episode. We're in the middle of an entrepreneurship series, and I'm joined today by Sarah Beth. How are you doing, Sarah Beth?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, Sarah Beth, we have been talking about entrepreneurs now. This is our third week into this series. Have you ever wanted to start your own business when you were younger?
I did, yes. I was really into going to the beach and visiting family, so I wanted to make my own seashell necklace company and sell that, but that didn't work out.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you wanted to make kind of a seashell. Was it like necklaces and stuff like that?
Yeah, so me and mom actually, we used to collect seashells on the beach and we would look for ones with little holes so we could make necklaces. And I was like, this is cool. And 6-year-old me wanted to make a business out of it.
Well, what do you think you need to know, or what would a young person need to know? Maybe the young people that you're teaching now, that you're a high school teacher, what would they need to know in order to be young entrepreneurs?
Well, something I tell my students is that you have to be in the right mindset to start your own business. There's a lot of ups and downs, and you have to have that I'm willing to do whatever it takes kind of mindset.
And I'm
Um,
glad that you led with that. I'm
really?
glad that you led with that because our guest today is Doug Greathouse. And Doug Greathouse is a coach's coach. He coaches people who want to be entrepreneurs, helping them in the entrepreneurship world, really focusing on life coaches who want to be entrepreneurs as well. And Doug discusses with us today what he feels like are the essentials, like the base thing that you need to do if you have want to be an entrepreneur. And his first thing was what you just said, mindset. That
Nice.
you got to have mindset, you got to have the right skill set, and then you need to have a mentor. And we really go into this. Doug has a great deal of knowledge and depth, having helped young entrepreneurs of all ages all over the nation establish their business and be more successful. He has a lot of information. You're going to see his information in the show notes. But I really enjoyed this interview as we connected with him, so much so that I felt like that our organization needed to benefit from him. So I've asked him to help coach us as well. So this is not just something that we're doing for an interview. We actually believe in the things he's saying. So mindset, skill set, and mentorship. Those are great things.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we're going to have a good interview with Mr. Doug Greathouse. Welcome to the Gen Z Show. Doug, thank you for being our guest today.
Well, I am so happy to be here, James. We connected. You were on my podcast recently, which is coming out next week. So I am so glad that we made that connection. You embody a lot of the same beliefs that I do. So I'm glad to be on your show.
Well, for those of you who want to go back and find that podcast that he's talking about, it would be kind of the middle of September. So this is when this airs. This would have aired. My episode would have aired in the middle of September. So, hey, and let's do a shout out to our mutual friend Danica, who connected us together. She's excellent at being able to connect people that are on similar journeys in life.
Yeah, she is a connector for sure. Another great connection that I made probably about a year and a half ago, and she has been implemental in so many things in my journey. So, yeah,
she does have that connection skill, which probably need to do a whole podcast on connecting and the value of that, and especially for our young audience. Now, Doug, our audience heard me and my co-host introduce a little bit of you at the beginning of the show, but they always love to hear from our guests, to hear about themselves. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the Gen Z audience.
My name is Doug Greathouse. First off, I run a digital marketing agency called SalesSite, and it's been around for 13 years. For the first 10 years, we helped brick and mortars. For the last 3 years, we've been helping coaches, consultants scale their business to consistent 5-figure months. I host the Entrepreneur, if I can point right, it's over there somewhere, Entrepreneur Journey podcast that James has been on. And we also have a Facebook group full of trailblazing entrepreneurs that's also titled Entrepreneur Journey. So that's a little bit about me.
Now, I'm sure the audience is sitting here listening or watching, and they're going, wait a minute, James, what are you pulling? You're pulling a sneaky one on here. Why are you trying to do a business podcast on a podcast that talks about how we can positively impact you? So why should we be talking about entrepreneurship to a youth-focused audience?
Oh, my goodness. I hope you got a minute. So anyway, I'll try and keep it brief. If I had been exposed to entrepreneurship as a youth, I did go into a corporate career. If I had been exposed to it sooner, I would have been an entrepreneur sooner because I just fell in love with it. I read, like, the books that I read were all about entrepreneurs when I was younger, the books that I loved. And I knew that seed was always there. So if you don't at least expose the youth to it, I think you're doing a disservice, right? A lot of people don't want the college path. You can still take the college path and get into entrepreneurship, but a lot of people want a different avenue than maybe what their parents did or something like that. And they want to at least explore entrepreneurship. And this, I will tell you, entrepreneurship is better to explore when you're younger than it is when you're older and have more responsibilities, because you can afford to take a few more risks. And once again, you don't have the weight of the responsibilities when you're older, when you have a family and things. You can afford to explore more in your youth with entrepreneurship than you can when you're older. It gets a little more riskier as you have more responsibilities as you get older.
Why do you think youth are not very excited about jumping into an entrepreneurship journey?
Ooh, it's scary. You know, there's a lot of times they, like, how many college people do you know that go into college and even after 4 years still don't know what they want to do, right? So the same thing could be with entrepreneurship. There's so many different avenues in entrepreneurship, and you got to figure out exactly what you want to do. You got to figure out what you're passionate about, explore that passion, and then go from there.
You know, I'm sitting here when you said that, and I'm thinking about a lot of times we're, as parents and adults, we are not encouraging you to explore that option, or at least to research the possibilities, to explore the possibilities, not saying go into it, but just explore the possibilities. Why do you think that adults and parents are telling youth today, or very often telling youth today, take the better road, take the traditional road, go to college, get your degree, and go work for a company, rather than sitting back and saying, hey, let's explore some other avenues here?
It goes back to the fear of the unknown, right? And so if the parents went that route through college, got the good job, they're going to tell their children that's the path, right? Because that's what they know. They don't know entrepreneurship, so therefore there's a lot of fear of the unknown. And what's the saying? Like 50% of businesses fail, right? So there's that fear. So that, I think, is why, like, they because as parents, we want to protect our children, right? So we usually give them the safest path, not necessarily the best path, but the safest path to where we want them to go. So
that's a good point that we do. It seems like entrepreneurship in a young person is kind of something that they have grown up being around. We just interviewed recently Maddie Callie, and she said that she grew up in an entrepreneurship family. So when the pandemic hit and she could no longer, she had to come home from school, and she had not had the greatest experience her first year at school anyway. It was just not it wasn't jiving with her, that it was a natural fit for her to turn her energy and focus into starting a business. So how do we even get the parent? Coach a parent. Let's coach a parent right now who's like, okay, I want what's best for my child, and maybe I need to open their eyes on this. How do we encourage the parent to do that? If they came to you and said, Doug, I need some help, give me some advice, what should I do?
The first thing is get in contact with an entrepreneur. Maybe you know one in your church or in your community. Get in touch with someone that you can connect your child with that's an entrepreneur, that can kind of give them the ins and outs. Maybe they've had the ups and downs in their journey, so they could prepare that child for, it's not all roses in the entrepreneur journey. There's a lot of opportunity, but just know where you're headed before you take that path, right?
So mentorship is really what you're looking for.
Mentorship, yes, and someone that's been there, right? Someone that's an entrepreneur that can guide them. And especially,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The dream thing would be to find the thing that the student child is passionate about, and an entrepreneur in that field, and pair them together, and then they can really get a great picture of what could be possible if they went that route.
But initially, it probably doesn't matter if it's in that same field. It's just someone who can share their journeys and their experience and kind of pour into the youth to do it, and then hopefully trying to find when you're working with when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I need some entrepreneurship coaching. I need someone to help guide me through this." What's the first thing that you do with them?
That's a very good question. The first thing, well, people come to me with different assets. Let's just say that. So some people have a mindset for entrepreneurship that come to me, and some do not. So if they do not have the mindset that will prepare you for entrepreneurship, that's the first thing we work on, is developing the right mindset for entrepreneurship, because you will have different challenges than you will on a career path in entrepreneurship than you will, So you will have different challenges in entrepreneurship than you will on a career path. So mindset would be the first thing if they don't already have that.
So when we get a youth that comes in that says, "Hey, I'm interested in starting my own business or something," really we want to focus first on mindset with them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I love when I have a guest who says the things that parallel with some of the things that we've been advocating here at Generation Z, and that's in our coaching program. That's the first thing that we work on is mindset. Making sure that they have that growth mindset that is going forward on this. So what do you think are the skill set that they would need in order to be successful? All right, we got mindset. Well, let's talk about skill set.
Well, eventually they're going to need leadership. Maybe not as a solopreneur, but if they're ever going to grow, they're going to need leadership skills, because eventually, in order to grow, you're going to need a team. And if you can't lead your team, it's hard to grow. So leadership would be one of those things. Time management is crucial as well. Being able to manage because if you go to a job, they tell you how to use your time.
Yeah.
Whereas entrepreneurship, you're left to your own devices of how to use your time. So one of the things that I always tell people is focus on entrepreneurship, focus on the revenue generating activities first, because everything else comes behind that. If you're not making revenue, you're out of business. So focus on the things that are going to generate revenue first, and then go from there.
Have you had any opportunity to work with any young people? When I say young, I'm talking about like under 23, 24, and getting started on the business?
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
More as a mentor, someone on my team, but they did not go into entrepreneurship. I showed them what entrepreneurship was like, and they are young. They're starting a family. They wanted more of a safe route for themselves. But they said they learned more from me coming through mentorship than they did in their 4 years of college learning with the same major that I would teach them. So.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. Very much so that young people are going to learn more from a mentor in this aspect than they would anything else. What would be the best advice that you could give to a young entrepreneur if they wanted to start something? And here's the premise of the question, or here's what I'm thinking about, is we had some young people come to one of our coaching certifications, and they wanted to be coaches, and they had good jobs that they were working in right now, and they were in their mid-20s, and they really have a passion for working. So we found their passion. They really want to help their emerging generations transition very well. And the very first thing that I heard them say that kind of startled me a little bit was, "I think we're going to quit our job and start doing this." Okay, you got the same reaction I did. How would you advise them?
You heard the term side hustle, right?
Yep.
I always advise, don't quit and this is part of my entrepreneur journey, right? I was not an entrepreneur right out of the gate. When I quit my corporate job, I took part-time jobs and built my business while I had part-time jobs. So I was still paying the bills with my part-time job while I was building my business. And I did not quit those part-time jobs until my business replaced that income. So that's the number one advice. If you have a job, don't quit your job until you replace the income from that job with your business.
Any areas that you would advise them to go into?
Ooh, I mean, there's so many. I think I have to always fall back to passion. What you're passionate about, you'll automatically be driven to help grow. But there's a caveat to that. Not necessarily what you're passionate about is something that's going to make money. So make sure those two things align, right? Because there are plenty of fields that you could get into that you may be passionate about, but you'll find that the market just isn't there. And the market is very important. That's one of the things I would say. Examine if there is a market, what that market looks like. Take a survey of that market, of what their needs are, what their pain points are, and then you can find something that fits those needs and serve them and follow your passion.
Yeah, I really love what you just said there, that when you're talking about surveying the market to see what the needs are, because I do see a lot of times, and this is even entrepreneurs that are on up into our age. I mean, I'm in my early 50s, and people who want to start business. Oh, I've been in this for a while, I want to get out. They have a passion for something, and they feel like, since I love it and I'm interested in it, the world must love it and be interested in it. And so they produce this product or this service, and then there's nobody there to buy it. And that's just a lesson that at our age, you can't really afford to learn the hard way. But at a younger age, you might have a little bit of an opportunity to learn it and fail. But I love what you said then about surveying and finding out what the needs are.
What you said right there too is about failure. Don't be afraid of failure. If you're a young entrepreneur, you're expected actually, and not only expect it, but almost cherish it, because what you're gonna if you do it right, you're gonna learn from that failure, and it's gonna help you grow.
Yeah, I think sometimes culturally we are discouraging youth to try things to fail, especially in a business aspect or entrepreneur aspect. We just, as a societal thing, we kind of discourage that. Now, I grew up in an area where my friends and stuff had to find other sources of income, or else they were going to be working, on the farm in the hot sun, sun all summer long, in 100,000-degree weather at, in sticky humidity and in the South, and they didn't want to do that. So they were coming up with ways of trying to find their own sources of income. So we were a little bit more mindset, but I feel like that's gone, or it's sliding away. Do you see that in the experience that you've had, that we're just discouraging that? We're kind of moving away from that?
Unfortunately, I do feel that way a little bit. Like the finding, being ingenuitive, right, and finding your path is kind of been discouraged a little bit. I have to agree with you.
One of the traits that has been identified with Generation Z, which if we had to put a age on them now, they're probably like 25 to 10 years old. So 10 to 25-year-olds, give or take a few years in either direction, is that they are a little bit more open to the idea of doing things their own way. So we do have a group that is a generation that is prepared, that is coming of age, that are emerging, that have more of an open mindset. But yet we as a society are not providing them maybe with the resources they need to do that. I think that's a discouraging type thing to see, that we only think about entrepreneur coaches for being someone who is, starting their second business or starting a side hustle business in their 30s or something like that. We don't think about it as someone who is 18 or 19. That's just sad to me.
Yeah, I will say this, that the young entrepreneurs that I've seen be successful, one of the first things they did was get a mentor.
We did a session on mentoring last fall.
Because you can either, if you go alone, it's a lot harder. If you go with, it smooths the path quite a bit.
I definitely can see that. I mean, even the little traditional setting up a lemonade stand is a form of entrepreneurship. And a child who does that is not doing that on their own. They really have, that mentor, whether it be a parent or a grandparent, that guides them on what to do and tells them what's going on. So, I mean, you could use that analogy very easily to show the value of that. my youngest daughter is 12, and I think when she was 6 or 7, she wanted to have a lemonade stand. I don't know where she got the idea from. My guess is some TV show that she was watching that had a lemonade stand on there or something.
Yeah, I almost forced my daughter to have a lemonade stand.
You did?
Well, she enjoyed it. She really enjoyed it, but it was my idea.
Well, what was the catalyst for that idea? Well, why did you want her to do that?
Because I thought it was important for her to learn, at least get exposed at a young age to how economies work and about entrepreneurship. You sell X at you buy at X, you sell at Y, right? And then in the middle is your profit, and then you can go spend that on candy that you wanted.
What you just said there is a lesson that sometimes on this lemonade stand type of things that children are not taught, because they are not buying at X, they are being given the resources, and so they're thinking, I make 100% if I'm selling a cup for $1, and that sounds very high to get a little cup, but it is what it is. I keep the dollar, which they're not learning that full lesson that's going through there. That's a good point that you just made on doing that.
So parents, maybe this is a lesson for parents listening. Have them take their allowance and buy the supplies for the lemonade stand.
Well, if we had to brainstorm, just different ideas and stuff or things that we've heard of young entrepreneurs doing, I think of stuff like, my son, when he was 15, I encouraged him to go to some of the neighbors on our street and ask them, do they want their grass mowed during the summer? Because and I helped him with the pricing structure. Hey, you might want to get $70 for this yard, or $30 for this job, or $50 for this job. And he only got 2. I think he asked 12, but that's still, I think, so things like that. I mean, what we can think of? We mentioned lemonade stand. I just mentioned lawn mowing. What are other things that we can encourage them to do while they're still in high school?
Of course, babysitting.
Babysitting, great job. Yeah.
Yeah. House cleaning. Like it's chores they have to do in the house anyway, normally, right? So why not go to someone else's house and get paid for it? A laundry service. If you could do laundry, your neighbor's laundry, bring it to your house, wash it, take it back to them. There's all kinds of different ways that you can do things.
I hadn't even thought about some of that. I haven't thought about that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. There's also all the social media stuff, right? Like I think there's a little bit of disillusion here with these social media influencers that are young and making lots of money. They're not seeing the iceberg effect. Some of them just got lucky, honestly. But some of them, there's a lot of hard work that went on beneath the surface that got them to be the social media influencer that they are. And I think a lot of young people are exposed to that and say, "Oh, that was easy." It's not. It wasn't relative. It probably was not easy.
There's a group in Oklahoma called LoveWorks, and I interviewed the founder of that last year, and they do a middle school entrepreneur school. So for middle schoolers, they kind of teach them and they help them create a product. And one of the products they created that they ended up selling was a salsa. I think it's a salsa. My audience may be correcting me right now. No, James, you're wrong. You didn't even remember who you interviewed. But they were taking it to a local market, a local farmer's market, and being able to sell the product there. So there's bigger opportunities out there. And of course, things that I do know some children, Doug, who have sold things on Etsy before.
Yeah. Actually, I have a friend who is in the health fitness space, but his wife and daughter started a jewelry brand that was handmade jewelry that they're selling on Etsy.
Yeah, and I think something like that is very, very easy in which to do.
Yep.
And I've heard of a high school student in Texas who won an award for some other ideas, and then when I heard their complete story, I realized I heard what they were doing is they were going to thrift stores and buying cheap clothing there and then reselling the clothing online in different, maybe it was Etsy, maybe it was other platforms, and just reselling it. What is it? Poshmark. I think they could sell it on Poshmark, those types of things. So there's a lot of opportunities for young people to create that side hustle. It's just, they got to do what the things that you said. They got to have the right mindset, and then find that mentor, and then start learning that skill set. So if we had to number them, we've actually come up with 3 steps here. Number 1, create the right mindset. Number 2, mentorship. I like this. And the third one is work on that skill set. That's cool.
Yeah,
you need to make a class off of that, my friend.
It's so weird that we outlined it in the step, because that third step you talked about was skill set. When I started my entrepreneur journey, you have to be willing to be terrible at something before you can be great, right? And be uncomfortable in being terrible at it, because my agency started as a web design agency. I would not want to resell that first website that we sold, because it was not that great. We were just starting out, but we sold it, right? And we got better, and we got better, so I think there's a lesson in that. Keep working on that skill set to get better.
When you said that, it reminded me of a Ziegler quote. Mr. Ziegler said, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you learn to do it right, or learn to do it well. So, he takes away, anything worth doing is worth doing well. No, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you can learn to do it well, which is another total mindset flip from people that they don't necessarily think of.
Going back to possible things that kids could do, like to make money, entrepreneurship. A lot of kids are good at a particular thing that they find in school. Like, they're good at sports. They could teach they could do a youth, like younger than them, like elementary school age basketball clinic, right? Soccer clinic. So
I've heard of that. I've heard of like all-star athletes, that maybe don't see themselves as having a future in college, but being very, very good, and they don't want to go that college athlete route because of the time. But going and teaching clinics or teaching some private lessons on how to do certain things to relaying their knowledge. That's a good point.
Music the same way, right? If they got good on the violin, they could tutor a younger person on the violin or the piano or whatever it is they're good at musically.
Oh, when you said that, it just made me think of another young lady. I knew a young lady who tried out for American Idol. She was invited. She had done some YouTube videos where she was singing and playing the guitar, and she was invited to American Idol. It didn't make it to the big TV broadcast, but made it several levels. When she was in high school, she was only 16 when she did that. When she was 17 and 18, she was teaching guitar to elementary school students. And obviously she had a little bit of marketing momentum, because she could say, hey, come in, this. But other folks could do that, that have that entrepreneurship thing. Gosh, this is really turning into a practical thing where people can come and get ideas for them. Not only the steps that we've given them, but some, could kind of spur people's minds to start thinking about more. Wow. I like it when it goes in directions like this.
Yep. If you're a good test taker, you can teach people how to be good test takers.
Tutoring.
Yep.
Tutoring. Yep. That's a great opportunity. Which they can do. And these are all things that, high school students, early college students can do to earn that extra income. The question that I want to hear some of the audience saying is like, hey, well, these are great little things here for them to do to earn some money, but it may not be anything that lasts. So what's the value of us pouring into them and encouraging them to do this when they really should be concentrating on their studies so they can get into the right school or can get the grades they need to do? Why should they? What are the benefits for them to do these little entrepreneurship jobs that may not lead to a career in that particular field?
Think of it as a study, right? As something they're studying as an additional, because everyone needs to understand the economy, right? No matter what job you go into, the more you know about finances and how finances work that you would get from entrepreneurship, the better it's going to serve you no matter what you do future in life.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm thinking, the things that you can learn may be invaluable. It will make you a better employee if you do decide to go and work for a company or an institution or an organization, because they'll see something in you that they don't see in the person who, was working at Subway everywhere. I mean, everybody learns something from having a job, but you certainly are going to be a more valuable employee, I would think, going forward on this.
A scenario I think of too is how entrepreneurs often do something. In order to grow, they have to do something uncomfortable, right? And then in a career that could also happen, right? You have to be like if you're going to get promoted, it's more likely you're going to get promoted to something you haven't done before. So you have to be willing to be uncomfortable at first in that promotion, just like you would in entrepreneurship.
That is a great point. That is a very, very great point. I'm going for it. Something that we've asked many of our guests that it's more of a personal thing is, what is the greatest piece of advice that you were ever given in your life?
Oh my goodness.
I love when people, everybody always says, pause and goes, oh my gosh.
If this is going to seem like I'm pandering to the crowd here, because this is a GenZ show. But what comes to mind and what I've set my business up as the underlying interweaving thought is what Ziegler said: help enough people get what they want, and you will have all that you will ever want. I know that's not the exact quote, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about that before too. I think on your show is that Mr. Ziegler, and it's not a manipulation philosophy.
Right. No.
It's a philosophy of service. When you serve someone, when you really are trying to help somebody reach their goals and reach what they are, then you're going to get the things that you want the most out of your life as well. So tell our audience a little bit more about your site, what you do, and how they can connect with you there and the services you provide as well.
So Sales Site is a digital marketing agency. We primarily work with coaches and consultants and helping them grow and scale their businesses, but we also still work with brick and mortars. It's just not who we market to currently. So we do everything from search and optimization, pay-per-click ad management and optimization, social media, growth, video editing, like anything that you think a digital marketing agency would do, we do, except we don't come and film your videos. We will edit your videos, or we won't film them for you. So we're primarily about helping businesses get more leads and sales. So everything that we do is tied to that.
So even if a young entrepreneur, would they need a service like this? Or if you were to not right fit, would you suggest other services for them? Is it something that would be of value to them?
I think context really matters in that situation about what they're pursuing. They may need a service like ours. The other piece of what we do is consulting, right? So one of the things that we talk about is having the right offer for the right audience. So that is at the core of starting an entrepreneur journey, right? Is having the right offer for the right audience. So that is something that we help with as well. So at least that piece a young entrepreneur would find greatly valuable.
Hey, I don't want our audience to miss what he just said here, because a lot of times in the world that Doug and I are in, we say these little buzz phrases and we trade them back and forth, but we don't think about the impact. But what he just said about finding the right offer for the right audience is so crucial as you're going forward. It's like setting up a lemonade stand, out in an area that doesn't need it. I want to set up a lemonade stand and it's the middle of winter. Well, you probably that's the wrong offer. Might be the right audience, but it's the wrong offer.
Switch to cocoa.
That's exactly where I was going. I saw you were wanting to say something. I was like, I hope he's saying what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Because that's exactly where I wanted to go. And now it's time to do the hot chocolate sales this time of the year. Hot chocolate in the South in the summer would not work. So having the right offer, the right offer for the right audience. Gosh, that's such a crucial thing to be able to do, no matter what you're saying. so many things I think about this that I hate for it to go into a deep business thing because I don't want to lose them as they go through. How can our audience connect with you?
I think you have it displayed below. Salesite.com is our website. But I am big on relationships and interacting with as many people as I can. So you can find me on social media, Doug Greathouse on Facebook. I also the Entrepreneur Journey Group. I can never point the right direction on the screen, but
The other way.
there it is. The Entrepreneur Journey Group. If you're a young entrepreneur, we would be more than willing to have you join us there. And I think you could get there's a lot of great entrepreneurs in there that you could pull some wisdom from. So
and possibly even find a virtual mentor as well.
That's right. Yep.
That's a good opportunity too for a young person to engage in their. Be bold, young person. Be bold.
If I could dive into just a real quick story on that. We had a young man from Malaysia actually come into the mastermind that we have inside of the Entrepreneur Journey Group, and there were probably about 20 other experts on the call, and we all took our time to pour into this young man to help him get further on his journey. And nothing fills my soul quite like that is to see people just pouring into other people to help them take the next step. So that's kind of what it's like.
Hey, well, tell us then about what you just said about the call, because that piqued some interest here.
So every Friday at noon Eastern time inside of the Entrepreneur Journey Group, we have something called Entrepreneur Connect, because entrepreneurship can be a lonely road unless you surround yourself with other like-minded people on the same journey. So we have this Entrepreneur Connect, and it's networking, it's a mastermind. So what we do is if someone has an issue going on in their business or something they want to talk about in their business, we ask them to bring it to the surface, and then we all as experts, many in different fields, try and help that person take the next step in their business.
Excellent. And that's all done through Facebook?
Yeah.
All right. Listen, young person, Facebook is not just for old people.
Yep. Nope.
Well, we laugh about this, but, just 6 years ago, there were like 75% of youth were interacting with Facebook. Now it's dropped down to less than 37%, 36% are now using Facebook. So, you can find resources there what's going forward. And to our audience, all the links to the group and to how do you connect with Doug on Facebook, you can find in the show notes. So if you're online, if you'll just look through, if you'll look down, if you're looking at the video, if you just look down, you can see it. And if you're listening, just go to your app and click on more or whatever indicator that your particular app, your podcast app tells you to do, and you can find all this additional information on this. So, Doug, thank you for joining us today. And
it's been awesome.
And doing some things of giving these 3 steps of working on the mindset, the mentorship, and the skill set. And then you and I just brainstorming some ideas, which you threw out some things I hadn't even thought about. They can earn their opportunity. And this is a generation that we know from the research that would rather do it on their own than have someone tell them how to do it. And so entrepreneurial mindset is something that they're going to carry with them throughout their life.
Yep.
Well, audience, thank you for sticking with us. Someone needs to hear this message. So please like and share and comment on this. And we'll see you again next week on the GenZ Show.